Welcome back to another episode of the USL show. We have a really fun interview for you this week. Obviously, no live show. You're listening and watching this later, but we're talking to someone who just came through and is one of the few people to have their US pro license right now. We are talking to someone who came from a beautiful island of Bermuda and has the argument of being one of the most successful, footballers to come out of that beautiful island. And he is the assistant coach and soon to be head coach of probably your favorite club somewhere, Khano Smith. Khano, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for that lovely intro. I don't know if all of it's true, but I'll take it.
I just want to start off. I mentioned you being from Bermuda, right? And you talk about it a lot. That's something that you definitely have a big, badge of honor, especially when you go back. You post about it all the time. Being an influential person who's gone through and had a very successful, playing career, but has had an equally and, possibly even more successful coaching career at this point. How much does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I was born and raised there, and I spent majority of my childhood there. I left when I was a teenager to go to school, and I went to school here in the States. But it's always home. My family's there. A lot of my friends are there, so I feel like every time I leave and I do something and something positive happens, like people are always watching at home. So I feel like I'm representing everybody at home. And look at, we don't have many players and coaches working in the game in North America. So I just feel like I'm representing all the people there, and I just obviously just tried to do the best and make everyone proud.
And maybe John, who's also joining us today, can correct me. I think the only other person in North America from Bermuda is Zico Lewis for I think Sacramento Republic. But John, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. I'm really excited to have Khano on, an amazing guest, as you mentioned. So, yeah, doing well other than that, though.
Good. And down below, John, if you're watching, if you're just listening, that means absolutely nothing to you. Is someone that lives in the state and was around the area that Coach Connell Smith was just around in around the Charlotte area. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing okay today. I was speaking before the show, but we're officially 17 days tomorrow on Wednesday until the USL Championship season. So it's very exciting to be rapidly approaching the start of the year.
Coach, I have to ask, when you hear that's only 17 days away, do you get excited or is there just like a little bit of, oh God, it's coming?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely excitement at this point. I mean, after a long season, and obviously, as you know, as a traumatic loss as they can get, like a lot of time away from the game was good. But then right around, obviously it's the holidays right after Thanksgiving and Christmas, so you feel like everything goes by so fast. But enjoying that time off. But then I think right around, all right, after we get through New Year's, it's like, okay, like now you're itching to get back to work. So a break was definitely needed, but definitely ready to get the season started and looking forward to another really good season, hopefully.
So I'm just going to go ahead and just open this up for John and Ryan, because you and I have talked a lot. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like I kind of know where your headspace is, but I mean, they have different stuff that they probably want to bring to table too. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to them.
Yeah, just to stick with the first line of questioning, obviously you represented Bermuda 30 plus times on the international stage. Kaylor mentioned like guys like Zico Lewis coming from the Caribbean and Barbuda specifically. There used to be a team in Antigua for 3-4 years in the USL. What role do you think the Caribbean has to play in the future of the league, and what should the league be doing to really develop that as a pipeline going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because I think there's a lot of talented players throughout the Caribbean. I mean, if you look at Haiti, you look at Jamaica, you look at Trinidad and Bermuda and other small islands that are producing players. I just think it's not a a difficult adjustment for players from that region because you're not going too far. And look, a lot of people from around the world have family or little communities all over the United States. And look, you go to Miami, there's little Haiti, you go, you can go wherever. And it's just, I think it's a really easy adjustment for players from the Caribbean. So I definitely think it's a market there for the league to exploit, and get players over and continue to develop the game in this region, and develop our league as we continue to grow and get better and take strides as a league every year. I think the league gets better every year, and that trickles down from the top level of the game, and MLS improves every year. So I think our league improves every year as well.
And to build off that a little, they announced last week that it was the U.S., Mexico, and Canada who had officially qualified for the 2026 World Cup, meaning there will be 3 available CONCACAF spots for that World Cup. Do you see the USL like really having an improvement in being able to help kind of encourage those Caribbean nations to find a way into qualifying for the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's massive, first of all, that the game's going to be in this region again, because I didn't attend any of the games in '94, but I certainly plan on hopefully doing it in 2026. And I just think it's really exciting that the game's going to be in this region again. And I guess I'm biased, but I think there's no better place to host the World Cup than here. I just think you could host the World Cup in this country tomorrow and be no problem. So yeah, good question about continuing to use the World Cup as a vehicle to grow. I think the smaller nations will probably really think they stand a better chance when you get 3 of the big dogs now. You get them out of qualifying, and I don't know the exact number of what FIFA is going to allow. Obviously, with the tournament expanded to 48, there's going to be more spots for this region and every other region. So I think countries that have a good generation of players that are going to be available for that time, or countries that have been planning and really have goals of developing the game in their country, really stand a good chance in 2026.
I want to kind of, talk about your coaching career a little bit, and then, kind of hop back to your playing career and just kind of jump all over the place. But, your coaching career, one of the most interesting aspects of it to me is that, I mean, you did the South New Hampshire, I think it was South New Hampshire. And then, you went down to Orlando Pride, where you're with NWSL. I mean, it was when I talked to Johnny Dean, hearing how you were one of the people that recruited him to Birmingham because you were just in Orlando at the same time as him. I mean, that's cool in of itself. But, now we have Birmingham has a W League team, right? You've been around the women at a high level of football, right? What's kind of the difference between those games, and, what do you kind of, I guess, what are you excited about with just seeing just the W League come to Birmingham as well? Like, how do you think that will grow the game here?
Yeah, I just think it's more opportunity, and again, another vehicle to grow the game in this country, and obviously all parts of the game need to continue to grow and develop in this country: men's game, women's game, kids game. But it's just another vehicle for female players to play at a high level and play during the college season. So I just think it's and it's the South in general, and Birmingham included in that is a hotbed for soccer, just based off of climate, right? You can always play outside year round. So yeah. I think it's going to be a lot of talented players that are in the area. Obviously, we have good schools, good colleges that are in the area that, obviously we will probably pull a lot of those players from. And we have good youth clubs where those ladies need places to play. So look, I want everybody to play the game. So the more people to play the game, the better. So it's always a good thing that the game's expanding and continue to grow.
I just want to talk about just real fast. You talk about, the weather in Birmingham is great. I mean, heck, this week we're about to have 80-degree weather in Birmingham in February. For you as a coach, especially, you were around Orlando, and, you grew up in the Caribbean and now in Birmingham. You've recruited some guys to Birmingham, and you've been a part of the recruitment of guys to Birmingham who've never played in weather above 80 degrees. And then they have to deal with their first hot day. Do you just kind of laugh at them a little bit, or are you just kind of like, get used to it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think no matter where you're from or where you grew up, like to me, hot is hot and cold is cold. So, and I think everybody's like experienced it, and obviously I get teased a lot being from Bermuda, and when it's I don't know, you get down to 50, I'm wearing gloves and I've got a hoodie on. I'm like, but yeah, it's cold is cold, so it doesn't really make a difference to me. And you can make fun of me. It's just it is what it is. But look, I think once you start playing, I think all of that stuff kind of goes away. And look, in my playing career, I had one of my best games in the coldest climate I've ever played in New England. So I think once the ball gets rolling, you kind of forget about that stuff. To be honest, the conditions is once you find your sweet spot and the zone that you need to reach, like I think everything else just goes out the window. Crowd, any other elements or factors, like I just think it goes out the window.
Yeah, to jump back to the stint in Orlando for a minute, when you were there for a handful of years, you got to work with Marta, Ali Krieger, Alex Morgan. What was it like to be coaching these players who are really at the peak of the sport in general? And did you find that there was any substantive difference with what you were doing tactically in training, whatever, between the men's and women's games?
Yeah, good question. Like you said, I obviously coached some world class players and some World Cup winners sprinkled all through there. And I think they obviously demand a lot of you, and they want to be pushed, and they're on top of you. Things are not right, and obviously it's as it should be. Like it's a high level performance environment, and as a coach, you should push them, and as players, they should push you as a coach. So I think I developed a pretty good understanding with them. I think they knew that I had a pretty good understanding of the game and respected my opinion. So I think I developed a really good rapport with all of them. And I think honestly, I really don't think it's much difference, right? I think obviously different parts of the game biomechanically is going to be different. Certain parts of the game are going to be faster, but I honestly think female players sometimes learn faster than the guys, and I think they are willing to just take on the information, and they're just ready to go, and they just want to be taught. And like all players, I think all players at this day and age, even guys that we have here, like they want to learn and they want to be pushed. They want to know about the opponent. They're students of the game. They want to know what their performance numbers look like, the physical output, all of that stuff. So there's so much information that is out there for them now, and I think they want it. And I just think honestly, it's at the end of the day, we're all humans, and people just want to be treated fairly. And are you going to agree with every decision that the coach makes? No, but as long as you explain it and communicate and people treat people fairly, I think it's a lot more similarities than differences than people would think. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on coaching the two sets of players.
Yeah.
And I guess
So, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna ask, like, and just kind of when you were talking about just kind of preparing for opponents and everything. I recall from last season, and Kaylor talked about this a lot last year, of just having that long road trip, which obviously is very difficult during the middle of the year. USL has done a bit of a better job this year in trying to spread out some of the games, and I found it interesting with this year having everyone play every other team. Do you find it at least challenging trying to prepare for these kind of road trip games that they had? There's, I think, to start the year, there's a back-to-back with Loudoun and Orange County, both being road games. And I get to kind of compare that. Do you find your preparation for games against Eastern Conference teams different than Western Conference teams?
Yeah, I think slowly but surely. Obviously, the first year was normal, I guess, so to speak, right? Obviously, it was a normal season, and the next season wasn't normal at all, and you sick of preparing for the same team, so you obviously knew them inside out. And then the next year it was obviously I think we played everybody. Was it twice? I can't remember what we played the next year when we went to the groups of 8. I think we played everybody twice. I can't remember. But you were still really familiar, and I was honestly kind of disappointed because it becomes monotonous preparing for the same teams and the same teams that you're going to know. And I think you learn more by watching other teams and watching other people that you haven't prepared or played against. So I really enjoy playing against teams in the West. it's definitely different, more transitional than I think the East is. The East is more structured, but I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. I don't find it challenging. I find it refreshing after 2 years of preparing for the same opponent over and over and over. And I think, look, if you have the right setup in your club and the staff, it's easy. I just think how we kind of do it, it'll be 1 week that I will prepare for the next opponent, and then the next week somebody else can prepare 2 weeks out for the next opponent. So I think it's easy, and we all teach each other about the opponents. Like, it's no way one person can know everything about one team. But I try to spread my knowledge out as best I can and learn as much about everybody. So I really enjoy it now that we're getting a little bit more of a sprinkle of the West Coast teams. Hopefully one day the league just gets to a place where you just play everybody twice, like most leagues in the world. And then I think you can get a really fair gauge of who the better teams are in the league.
Kind of speaking, whenever you're talking about, when we were in 2020 and playing the same 4 teams over and over again, we played most of those teams 3-4 times. And then 2021, we were in those groups of 8, and it was those divisions, and it was just weird. Just wondering, during that 2020 season, did you hate Enzo Martinez as much as we did? Like, were you as sick of him as we were?
Look, Enzo is definitely the guy that you hate when he's not on your team, but you love him when he is on your team. And he's actually a really, really nice guy. Like, if you spend time around him, like, he's such a good teammate, and he just works hard for the team. He's a good husband. He's a good father. He's just a really stand-up guy that just works hard and wants to win football games. At the end of the day, yeah, probably I didn't like him when he was in Charlotte, but I always respected him because you can see he was doing what he needed to do for his team to win. And like, you got to respect that. And I'm just obviously really glad that he's on our team now, because he's just a tremendous player, and he leads by example, and he's a little Energizer bunny, and he's just got this knack of knowing where the goal is and coming up big in big moments. So something you can't teach. That's experience he's learned over his lifetime.
Whenever I tell people, whenever I got a chance to meet Enzo, that he was actually a nice guy and a really good person, people are like, no, that's not the Enzo we know. I'm like, I promise. But, kind of speaking of another guy that was an Energizer bunny, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, Jonathan Dean, you recruited him and called him whenever he got cut from Orlando and said, hey, come check it out and whatever. And he was a guy that he admitted that he flew under the radar. He didn't impress anybody, which is just so hard to believe from someone who is arguably one of the best fullbacks to ever play in the USL. What did you kind of see out of Johnny? And were you ever in awe that he could run as much as he did all the time and not miss a single minute of action?
Look, he's definitely guy is a tremendous athlete, tremendous speed. Again, amazing teammate. And the story of how I saw him, I used to just go down to Orlando for the off season, because obviously I spent a few years there. So I was just there, and I went and watched UCF play. And it was easy, honestly. I just did my job. Like, he was the best player. He was the best player on the field. And I knew his college coach. So at that point, I'm like, for sure. And I was actually sitting next to some scouts from Orlando City who are friends of mine. And I called them. I was pissed when I drafted. I'm like, you guys knew I like this guy. And but look, obviously it all worked out in the end. And once he obviously got cut, I had spoke to him before the draft, and I said, look, I obviously hope for your sake that you get drafted and you end up in MLS and have a really good MLS career. But I said, by the small chance that it doesn't happen, let's just keep in touch. And then as soon as he got cut, I reached out straight away, and I said, look, obviously we'd love to have you in for preseason. And I said, look, the club will pay for your flight to come in. And he's like, well, I'm actually going to go home. And obviously I think he lives in Macon, Georgia, which is, I think it's like 3 hours from here. So he's like, I'm actually going to drive home. So I'll just spend a couple of days at home, and then I'll just drive myself up there. I'm like, okay, perfect. So then the rest is history. Once he got here, it was easy. It was like one day, like we knew he was a good player. And look, we knew he was good. Do we know he was going to be that good straight away and being able to, as healthy as he was, never get injured, run up and down the line, be important both sides of the ball. Like he's a tremendous player. So I'm happy for him that he's achieved his goal of making it to MLS, and now he knows more than anyone that he's got a lot of work to do to carve out a really nice career for him in MLS. But it's no other guy that's deserving of the opportunity for me. So I'm just obviously really sad to see him go because he was an important part of our club, but really happy for him personally.
Yeah, that USL to MLS pipeline and really USL to Europe pipeline has been something we've seen a lot of on the player side of things in recent years. But an area where we've seen less of that certainly has come in the coaching ranks. You obviously are someone with about as good a track record as there is in terms of the badges and the licenses. But do you see MLS in your future? What's your ambition going forward as someone who's excelled as an assistant coach, but is maybe looking for something more?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously really happy here, and I think I ended up at a really good club and at a club that has, from day one, my first interview with Tommy, he sat down with me and he said that, I obviously want somebody that's ambitious and somebody that wants to be a head coach one day, and not somebody that's just going to be a yes man and tell me what I need to hear. So from that day, we always just sat down, and that's been a priority for him. And I'm, grateful for him for pushing me to do that. And the club's been really supportive of me and going out and doing the pro license last year. But I think being in a club that had stability is really important too. So I just think, obviously, and you guys know that I've interviewed for jobs, and I've interviewed for jobs at all three levels, right? In MLS, MLS Next Pro, and USL. So look, it's what's meant to be for me will be for me. And when that time comes and the move is right, I would obviously be willing to and ready to jump on it. And I think the next step for me would obviously probably to be an assistant in MLS or a head coach in USL, MLS Next Pro. But I'm also really happy where I'm at. I love the area that I live in Birmingham. And I think the club, again, has been really supportive, and I love the group of players that we have. So look, I know it sounds pretty cheesy, and I said it in the interview with the USL website, but I'm just really not focused on where I end up. I'm just focusing on what I'm doing day to day and trying to grow and be better and be the best version of myself for my club and my players. And what happens. Like I can't control what happens. I can only control what I can do on a day-to-day basis. So here I am.
I know you don't want to look forward and say, what could happen and all that kind of stuff. The looking forward right now is, the immediate task ahead. But I do want to look back, and I want maybe for you to give a little clarity to people. There's only a few people in all of the US who have that pro license. Why is it so freaking hard to get?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's you have to obviously you have to have your A license first, and then they only select, I think it's 10 to 12 candidates, 10 to 12 candidates a year to be on the course, and there's obviously certain criteria that you need to meet. You obviously need to be working in a professional environment is one of them. So they obviously score you, like you fill out a profile on the US Soccer website, so they score you, and it's at that stage you can get to the interview stage. The interview stage is where they give you an assignment, and you have to do a tactical breakdown. And I think what we did was a US Poland friendly that they had us break down as if you were the head coach. And then you have to go down and you have to present it to three of the instructors, and then they score you on that interview. And then they narrow the candidates down to the 10 to 12 that they have every year. So it's a really tough process. I went through it a couple times, and I was really excited, obviously, to get the call and to be on it last year. And it was an amazing experience for me. So it's and I know a couple of USL guys that are going on it this year. So again, it's obviously going to just continue to help our league grow. But yeah, it was a really cool experience.
So I want to there was a moment last year, and you mentioned the heartbreaking defeat at the very end. But there was a really cool moment. There was several really cool moments of that match, and then some really not. But I want to talk about the first goal that was scored. It was this really cool free kick routine, which I'm going to pull up real quick for people who hadn't seen it. And I just want to put it on screen for people who aren't watching. Sorry. But it's this run up from Enzo that goes over to Juan, who flicks it up to Prosper's forehead, which no one's ever thought to use Prosper's forehead and not his left foot. When you know that was going to be kind of whipped out and going to be used, were you nervous or were you just excited to see it in action?
Honestly, I was just excited to see it in action. So we worked on it. I can't remember what day, but it was a day or two before this game, and we kind of just pulled it out and said, hey, let's just add this in there in case we get in this scenario where that ball ends up, because obviously where that ball ends up, it's that free kick ends up. It's a really difficult place to serve a ball in. Like, you can't shoot from there. So it's just a really awkward. You have to do something else to that ball to get it into a dangerous area, in my opinion. So we showed it to them, and I showed them a clip. We showed them a clip of a club doing it. We actually got it from Middlesbrough, who did it like a few years ago. And they worked on it, and they actually didn't pull it off. They got a goal scoring chance like a sitter, and the guy missed it. But we showed it to him and said, hey, look, if you get in this situation, go ahead and do it. And then that's where the credit for the coaching staff stops, because when we showed it to him, if you watch it again, the flick from Juan happened in the air. What we showed them, it was supposed to happen on the ground. But obviously, if you look at that play again, it wasn't on for that play to happen on the ground because Pittsburgh had too many bodies in there. So Prosper was obviously supposed to be where he was at, and he was supposed to get a shot on the ground. The ball from Enzo was perfect. The flick from Juan, they improvised. So they did it in the air. So that's all them. They improvised. We just gave them the framework of what to do. But they improvised. So that was what was really, really really pleasing for me, because again, that's what coaching and working with people and working with players is all about. Like, giving them the framework and say, okay, now you go do it. And they went and did it. So it was, look, we showed them, but what we showed them wasn't on, and they improvised and it worked. And look, obviously they were really, really pleased and really proud of themselves, as they should have been, because it was a tremendous, tremendous moment. And honestly, obviously how the game worked out didn't work out great for us in the end, but that's probably one of my favorite moments at being at this club was that.
Yeah, just thinking about some of the preparation that goes into matches, I know from working very small opposition analysis roles the past 2 years with Tampa Bay and Sacramento that the structure in every coaching staff really is varied. How is the division of roles between you and Tommy and everyone else there in Birmingham?
Yeah, look, I think we obviously have a smaller staff compared to most, maybe. So I think we just kind of really all kind of share the load. It's Tommy can't reach every player and he can't meet with every player. So obviously we have to keep people aligned with what we're doing and keeping people on track and keep reminding them of what our core beliefs and values are and what we stand for, and making sure that happens. And look, I think they all need love and attention, so we have to give it to them. So that's spread out. And look, we all share leadership roles as far as preparing for opponents. We divvy that up as well. And obviously we have Eric Avila now. So Eric's been with us. He came at the beginning of last year, and Eric's been a tremendous help. Again, he's a really good guy, and he has his ways with the players. He's obviously bilingual, so he can communicate with people that I can't communicate with, and he just has his own unique way, and we're all different. And I think our staff is really diverse, and we can check a lot of boxes and reach a lot of players the way we operate. So we divide opponent analysis up, we divide set pieces analysis up, and I think times it gets monotonous, right? So we switch roles. So it just be 1 week, and it's like, hey, you know what, Tommy, you take the opponent this week, and I'll take our team, and I'll work on our video, or Avi, you take the set pieces, or Avi, you work on the opponent. Like, it's no real hierarchy, honestly. Like, we just do what we feel and do what works best in the moment. And I think we have a really good way of working together and dividing up responsibilities. And then obviously we have We have Dan, who's great for the physical load and keeping us all in check and making sure that we're keeping players healthy. So I think we've really been blessed to have Dan. I think Dan's excellent, and I think he's one of the best in our league at what he does. And the physical stuff we don't even really have to worry about because we know he's got it under control, and he reins us in and makes sure that the guys are healthy and protected.
So, sorry, Ryan. Looks like you got some.
Oh yeah, I was just looking ahead for some of the schedule this year. Obviously, you have the opener against Pittsburgh, which is a pretty good opportunity as kind of a payback match. But you also have games against, or all three of the teams who finished top three in the Western Conference this past year were all road games for Birmingham this upcoming season. Is there just like a single game on the schedule that you just kind of have circled for the club this season, or just that one you're really looking forward to coaching in?
Not really from a football perspective right now because I think we played them all last year. It's honestly, I think USL for me, like I'm somebody that loves traveling, and USL's in so many cool cities that you wouldn't normally go to or have a reason to go to. So I was obviously disappointed we didn't get the Vegas trip last year. Like, oh great, Vegas comes to us. So of course, we don't get to go to Vegas and San Diego too. Like I've never been to San Diego. So honestly, those are two places that I've never been. And when I saw that we were going to them, I was obviously really excited for just traveling reasons. But obviously, Nate is somebody that I know well in San Diego now because we're doing the course together. So, and I think he's a really, really tremendous coach and somebody that has a bright future in the game. And I love the way his team plays. So getting to go there and play them in their environment. Vegas is like seems like it's always changing soccer environment, but they're always good and competitive. So again, it would be another test. I think they tested us in ways last year that we hadn't been tested at that point in time. I thought it was a really, really unique experience. So again, to go there and play them in their environment, and their environment's unique, and it's unique in terms of professional sports. So I'm looking forward to see what gimmicks that they come up with while we're there. But just off the top of my head, like obviously we've been to San Antonio, and again, another great place. Obviously, San Antonio is a trip that I always look forward to because my mom's sister lives there, so that one's going to be exciting. But yeah, off the top of my head, I think those three probably stand out, and ones on the West Coast that I'm probably looking forward to the most, simply because of the aspects that I haven't been there personally myself.
For Las Vegas, two-part question. If if and when we score a goal there, is there a plan for the team to celebrate on the pitch side mattresses, or who leads that? And also, if they start dropping money out of the helicopter again, are you leaving the locker room and go getting yours?
Yeah, that's it's obviously I know they have they have beds on the side of the field and all of that stuff. So I don't know, maybe take a pre-match nap. That might be good right before kickoff. I might do something like that. But the money part, yeah, that's going to be really difficult too because I'm helicopter dropping money out of the air is going to be, I'm sure, an exciting experience. But I think I'll be busy at halftime trying to figure out a way to beat them. But I'm sure somebody will get some money out of it.
Better man than I am. I do want to ask about the relationship that you have with not only Tommy but also Eric. For people who don't know, you played under Tommy Sohn, and Coach Sohn is one of the most well-respected coaches in the history of U.S. soccer. I mean, the amount of success he's had just everywhere, especially in like the U.S. Open Cup, is ridiculous. You've had a chance to play under him, but Eric is also an interesting one because, I mean, he's been around a long time, but you've also did have that chance to like coach him too for 1 year. You've all been able to work with each other and play under each other. Obviously, Tommy not playing under any of y'all. What's that kind of relationship like between all of y'all?
Yeah, I just think our staff's really I just think it's the right blend of seriousness and banter, and like we make fun of each other, but then we know when it's time to be serious. And I just think it's a really good environment. And again, we're all really supportive of each other. Like Tommy's done a really good job of supporting me and getting me to where I'm at in my career. And obviously he's somebody that's a mentor for me. And then look, not that Eric needs to look at me like as a mentor, but at least try to pass on. I obviously have at this point in my coaching career has more experience than he does. So if I can give him some insight into how things work and what works and what doesn't work. But he also shows me things, like he showed me something today that we would do. We would work in, and we was, drawing some stuff on the computer. And he's great. He's great in that regard, because he's look, I'm definitely not Steve Jobs on the Mac, but I think I'm definitely be competent. And he was showing stuff to me. He was showing stuff to me that I hadn't tried and done before. So I think we all bounce ideas and get stuff off of each other. So I just really think it's a really, really good environment. And obviously with Dan in there too, and obviously we have support staff that were all really close, and it's just a good staff, and it's a good place to work. And like I said before, I value like stability. I think our club has stability, and obviously that comes from the top down to us. And I think our playing roster is shows that as well. We're not making as many changes as we used to each year. It's not rebuilding. It's just like reloading now, which is good. So I think that's the sign of a good organization.
So I do want to just ask one more question on that. The transition of being a player and then the coach, right? Especially under like Tommy and Jay, for that matter. I don't know if you actually ever played under Jay or not, but was there a moment of just kind of like, this is weird? I remember them being my coach and then just like, tell me what to do and like getting on to me if I mess up, or praising me when I do something well. Was it like weird kind of jumping into the we're now colleagues and not was that strange at all?
So I actually didn't play for either of them. Jay was my teammate, believe it or not. Jay was my teammate in New England. So that was the connection there. And then the connection between me and Tommy was actually he was working in New England when I was working in the academy. He was obviously Jay's assistant, and I coached Tommy's son in the academy. So that was the connection to him. And obviously we knew each other and worked in the same building. I helped them on preseason one year. So it was never really that transition of him being my coach. And Jay wasn't my coach either. But then with Eric in that same scenario, I mean, he had just been coaching. I think he had been stopped playing for 2 years by the time he got here. He was working in the academy and at home, working in the DA. So he already had that light bulb change, and his mind flipped into being a coach. So it was easy. And when he came, it was just like he has been coaching for years, which he had, and he already had been thinking like a coach. And look, but he's still useful as a player in training. Like he played today, and he held his own. So the dude's he's he's a savvy, he's a smart player, and that ain't going to go away anytime soon, because athletically he hasn't declined that much. So he's definitely has his coach hat on, and he's obviously going down the road of doing all his licensing and stuff like that. But he's just a great guy to have around, and like I said, he has a different way than all of us to the players. So I just think we really have a diverse staff, and we can cover a lot of ground and hit a lot of the guys and make sure that their needs and wants are met. So he obviously has strong relationships with different people than I do, and Tommy has different strong relationships than I do and than what Eric does. So I just think we have a really good blended and diverse and balanced staff.
John, Ryan, y'all got anything else?
I think I'm good to go, other than the stupid ending question that we are required to ask everyone here, which is, so obviously you've been busy with preseason prep and all of that sort of thing, but in your free time, in your downtime, has there been anything you're watching, anything you're doing just to pass the time and relax a little bit?
I don't feel like there's really many good TV shows on right now. I'm kind of disappointed in what's going on in TV. Like it's not much. And obviously since House of Dragons went off, I love the Game of Thrones, love House of Dragons. So that was kind of a lull when that went off TV. So Eric, Avi got me started to watch, Last of Us. So he's had me watching that one.
Okay. That's a great one.
So that's probably as far as the TV shows is probably as my extent as far as what I'm watching right now. But honestly, I don't think it's too many good TV shows on for me to watch. Like Netflix is kind of disappointing, and like HBO Max doesn't have much on. So outside of once the season gets going, and between watching USL games for work and then other soccer games for pleasure, like I probably really don't have much time to watch much TV anyway. So, but yeah, if I had to pick one right now, it'd probably be The Last of Us, and I'm not sure of how I feel about it. I think it's all right. I don't love it, but I do look forward to watching it. But I'm not on top of the mountain saying it's the best TV show in the world yet either. So
Good stuff. Good stuff.
If people follow you on Instagram, though, they've seen your dog a time or two. What kind of dog you got?
I have a Doberman, so that's his Instagram. I'm just on there. He just I just post pictures of him most of the time. He loves it, and I think people get a kick out of the things that I post of him. So we haven't reached the levels of yet where he's paying for himself yet, but maybe that could be the goal someday. He's paying for himself through Instagram.
I mean, one of the things that I've seen recently, I guess it started last year, was the whole team just going out to this like one bar that lets you have all these, like have your dog there. It's like I don't even know what the place is called, but basically it's just, if you've ever been around Legion Instagram, it turns into look at my dog, which I'm all for.
Yeah, that's Alex and Eli. Alex and Eli lead that charge because obviously they both live in the downtown area. So what is it? I can't remember. It's called Bark. Is it Bark? Something Birmingham. It's called. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. We actually watched Argentina. I think it was Australia. Like we went there and had the dogs there one day. So they obviously serve beers and stuff. So we just watched the World Cup game there one day. So it was it was good. It's a good place. My dog unfortunately cannot go because he does not know how to behave around other dogs. He just gets too excited. So we stay away from dog parks and big crowds of dogs now because he gets too excited. So we stay away from those.
Bless it. John, where are you watching? What's going on in your free time?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Khano is saying, I'm big on Last of Us, as anyone who follows me on Twitter knows. Like pretty much every Sunday night, I'm tweeting something about that. But yeah, that's probably my number one thing. And I agree, it's kind of a dry spell right now for like great TV. But
yeah, I mean, I don't have HBO, so I haven't seen The Last of Us yet. But I mean, I've played the game, so I know what happens. But
yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers here. Ryan, how about you?
I saw the new Ant-Man movie last Thursday. I'm not sure if it's an accomplishment, but I think it's dating back to Doctor Strange that I've seen every Marvel movie on opening night from at least within that streak. But
that's
yeah,
it was 7-8 years. Yeah,
including 2 that I saw when I was in Glasgow, which was pretty neat. But
wow.
Yeah, it was okay, but yeah, there's Ted Lasso next month, Mandalorian coming up soon as well. So there will be good TV kind of returning as well.
All right, Connor, I have to ask, football coach, how in are you on Ted Lasso?
I like it. I do like it. I watched. What's it been? Two series. It's been two seasons.
Exactly.
So I like it. Look, obviously the football. It is what it is. But what I think I really like is like. What the takeaways is like his leadership experience, like I think it's good leadership lessons in there. So I really enjoy it from that aspect. And look, anything that's remotely football and got a little sprinkle of soccer in it is probably going to get me anyway. But I enjoy it. I think it's a good show. Like the acting is what it is. Like some of it's good, some of it's bad. But I find it entertaining. But I really enjoy it. It has a bunch of little leadership lessons in there that I like. So that's probably what I'm looking out for the most when I watch it. But yeah, I think MLS like missed the boat on that one. MLS and Apple missed the boat about getting him into somebody's preseason and doing like a little skit or a little show or commercial or something, right? I think they missed the boat on that one. But whatever, I don't work at the league right now, so that's for them to figure out.
So when are Birmingham playing AFC Richmond? Can we get that one in?
Yeah, absolutely. He can come take a session anytime he wants. He can come take one.
For me, let's see. I've been this one I haven't actually listened to it yet. This is one I'm planning to listen to. But my fiance recently watched the Greensboro Symphony do the Brahms Requiem, which is now on my listening. For Khano, if you haven't, for people who haven't seen, I always do a classical music listening, and apparently the Brahms Requiem was a really good one. So I'm adding that one to my list so we can all listen to that together for the first time. And for the 3 people that actually listen to the stuff, thanks. But yeah, I mean, unless anybody has anything else, I mean, kind of where can people find you to like kind of follow you on Twitter, Instagram, and just kind of keep up with you?
Yeah, I mean they're both my handles are the same. So it's just my first name, and then it's just a little play on my last name. So it's not spelled Smith; it's spelled Smith with 2 F's. So it's that's what my friends call me. So that's what I go with.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much for following along. If you watched, you got to see the free kick. So if you didn't watch that, at least go back and watch that part of this, and then you can turn it off if you're listening on streaming platform. But even though he's not here tonight, he's doing bigger and grander things. We want to say thank you so much for watching and listening, and cue Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. This and every episode is brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. Find podcasts and other written work at bgn.fm. Once again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys again next week.